Are you struggling to remember cases? Are you feeling overwhelmed by all of the reading? Studying law can be intense, but with the right techniques, you can work smarter and not just harder. Now in this video, I'm going to share some of the best study methods that can help you retain information, write better answers, and stay ahead in your legal studies. So let's jump right into those different study tips. And the first of those tips is to use active recall. Now this is really important when it comes to remembering case law. So active recall, the idea here is that reading alone doesn't help information stick. Instead, what you need to do is to test yourself. And so instead of passively rereading notes, try to recall the key legal principles from memory and the different case names from memory. You could use flashcards to do this. That's one way of doing it. That could either be physical ones or maybe apps like Anki or Quizlet that work pretty well. And you can quiz yourself on legal concepts. So for example, instead of just memorizing the Donahue versus Stevenson case, you could test yourself by asking what case established negligence and duty of care. Another tip is to use mind maps for legal concepts. Law is full of complex doctrines, and mind maps can help you see the connections between different topics. And so what you do is you'd start with the main topic, for example, contract law, and then you'd branch out into different subtopics. For example, consideration, breach, remedies, and the idea is that visually organizing topics like that helps them to be easier to recall in exams. You retain that information more effectively than when it's just written down on paper. Another tip is to focus on what really matters in case summaries. The idea is that you don't need to memorize full judgments. Instead, you just need to remember the key facts, the legal principle, and the outcome. And you can use a simple structure to do that. Case name, facts, legal issue, judgment, and precedent set. So for example, instead of memorizing the entire Carlisle versus Carbolic Smokeball Co. judgment, you can focus on advertisement as an offer, unilateral contracts, and intention to create legal relations. Another tip is to use the IRAC method, and this helps you to write answers that get top marks. Structure is really important in law exams and in law in general, and the IRAC method can help you to be clear in your answers. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, IRAC stands for issue, which is the idea that you identify the legal problem. Rule, R for rule, state the relevant legal principle or case law. A for application, apply the law to the scenario given, and then C for conclusion, which is that you give a clear and justified conclusion. And practicing using the IRAC method can help you to write clear, well-structured answers even under exam pressure. Another tip is to study in small, consistent sections. Now, law students can often have a tendency to cram before exams, but this is much less productive than spaced repetition. And so instead of cramming everything in one go, what you want to do is to revise topics over weeks rather than simply all at once. And so, for example, instead of spending 6 hours in one go on contract law, you could do 1 hour sessions spaced out over several days. And that is going to help you remember the information more effectively. It's also going to help you to not burn out as much. Another tip that can help you is to practice past papers under timed conditions. Knowing the law is one thing, but applying it under pressure is another thing altogether. And so what you would do in this case is you would set yourself a timer, set a timer on your phone or even with a stopwatch, and you attempt past exam questions as if you're in an actual exam. And afterwards, obviously, you would want to compare your answers with model answers and marking schemes. But the idea here is that you are putting yourself in the same kind of situation as a real test. And that helps you to experience the pressure of the real test, but it also will help you to remember and apply your knowledge more effectively if you do some of these past papers. Another tip, and this is really helpful generally when it comes to learning, is to teach legal concepts to someone else. One of the best ways of checking that you've truly understood something is to teach it. And so what you would need to do is find a friend, ideally a non-legal expert, and explain a legal principle to them or explain a particular case study to them. Or if you don't have a friend available at that particular point, at a particular time, you could record yourself explaining a case study. Or you could write a simplified blog post about a particular legal topic. The idea is that if you can explain something clearly, you probably understand it. And if you can't explain it clearly, then the chances are you don't fully understand it yet. So it's a great way of consolidating what you know, teaching legal concepts to someone else. And then the final tip that I'm going to throw in here is use real world examples to make law memorable. The idea is that you want to relate case law to real life situations that you're aware of, and that's going to help it to stick. Now, a silly example of this could be that next time you see a survival movie, you can think of the R.V. Dudley and Stevens case, which was a cannibalism case. And making that connection with a survival movie helps to make the idea of necessity as a defence much more memorable. So there we go. There are some tips to help you as you study law, as you study for your law exams. Doing well in legal studies isn't just about working harder, it's about working smarter. And so if you try out those study techniques, hopefully you'll see a real difference in how well you understand topics, but also how well you remember them. Now, I hope you found this video helpful. If you have, then please like and subscribe for more law study tips. And do let me know in the comments which study method works best for you.